There's no better feeling than a personal win, and the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you do just that. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Are you enjoying the Single Tracks podcast? Well, we could use your support. The small but dedicated Single Tracks team works hard to share the mountain bike information that inspires epic adventures through this podcast, our worldwide database of trail maps and photos, and daily news and reviews on the website. So, consider becoming a monthly, annual, or lifetime pro supporter and enjoy ad-free browsing on the website, free Single Tracks stickers in the mail, and discounts on merch for as little as $3 per month. Go to singletracks.com/support to sign up and to find out other ways you can help support our mission. That's singletracks.com/support. Thank you and happy trails. Backcountry.com is an online outdoor gear and apparel retailer carrying thousands of brands and products for mountain biking and your everyday outdoor lifestyle. Not only does Backcountry have the widest assortment of gear and apparel, but the heart and soul of the company lies with their Backcountry gearheads. These gearheads are former pro athletes, Olympians, and all-around experts that are available 24/7 by phone, email, and chat for one-on-one service, product recommendations, and to ensure you have everything you need for your next outdoor adventure. Go to www.backcountry.com/singletracks and use the code SingleTracks15 to get 15% off your first purchase. Some exclusions apply. That's backcountry.com. Check the show notes for the link and coupon code. Hey everybody, welcome to the Single Tracks podcast. My name is Jeff, and today my guest is Tinker Juarez. So David Juarez, known to mountain bikers around the world as Tinker, is a two-time Olympian, four-time 24 Solo Series champ, and mountain bike Hall of Famer from California. He's been racing mountain bikes professionally for 31 years and continues to compete in ultra-endurance racing at the highest level. Thanks for joining us, Tinker.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you. There's a few more things we could add to that list of accomplishments.
We'd be here all day.
Yeah. But anyways, I've been racing for over 45 years because I did BMX. I was in BMX for 15 years. And then I got into mountain biking around 86.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a Hall of Fame in the BMX too. And also three-time world champion.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thanks for adding that. So you grew up in Downey, California, which is just east of Los Angeles. What was the local biking scene like there in the 60s and 70s when you were just getting started?
Well, I grew up in a city in Norwalk, which was before Downey. And
okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Norwalk, and there was a place that I used to ride after school. It was in a park called Hollyfield Park, and we used to just meet up with my buddies and my friends that I hung out with riding our BMX bikes, and we just used to ride there every day, and so we just it was kind of our hangout with our BMX bikes. Mm-hmm. And then they started having a BMX race, and that's kind of when BMX kind of started. There was really no races that I knew of at that time. So I started racing at the local park and just continued racing every weekend. And then races were starting to pop up in all around different cities around my house, and started hitting those up too.
Yeah. Did a lot of your friends race, or was it like pretty clear early on that like you were faster than a lot of them?
Actually, my friends did race. We all kind of went to, their parents took them to the race, and my mom took me every weekend to the races. And we just, always used to just, sometimes we'll show up all together. And, it was just something that I was pretty much hooked when I started riding bikes. BMX racing was really fun, and it was a good family thing, and my mom enjoyed it, and my sisters came along and stuff like that. So,
yeah, that's cool. So when did you decide to make the switch from BMX to cross-country mountain biking?
Well, as I was growing up in and BMX, I did at age 15. I turned pro, and there was not a pro class in BMX at that time, and that was in 1975, and I was the youngest at that time. And so, yeah, then I got into a professional team in BMX around 76 with Mongoose. And from Mongoose, I rode with them for 6 years as a factory team. And that was kind of like my big professional team in my BMX career. And then right around after Mongoose, after I think it was in 80, 81, 82, I got into, I still had some BMX life in me, and then mountain biking came around. It was a new bike, and I think I started around 86. So yeah, I got into mountain biking because I was feeling like I was getting too old for the BMX sport, and
yeah.
And so I got into a new sport, and that was mountain biking, and that just kind of started off from like, a heavy bike with just, rigid frame and toe straps and things like that. And I just kind of just got hooked with that because it was just a fun sport. And then there was also racing starting to go on that. So it was just a good transition for me.
Yeah.
Just to swap over a bigger bike, more gears to choose from compared to my BMX days. There was only one speed, and now I had like 7 speeds at that time, maybe 6.
It's just hard to imagine going pro at anything at 15 years old. Was that like an easy decision? Like, was your mom on board with that to say like, yeah, go for it? Or was it just kind of on the side initially where you're like, I'm going to school and I'm going to see where this BMX thing takes me?
Right. At that time, it was a pretty easy decision because when I was racing from age 13 to 15, I was all of a sudden starting to win everything in my age class. I moved up from like a beginner level to a pro expert level, and within those 3 or 4 years, and then there was some money involved in the BMX racing at age 15, and I thought, wow, win a little bit of cash, for first place instead of getting a trophy. I was probably won like over 700 or 800 trophies in my BMX career. I don't know if I won that many between that age and 15, but I was racing BMX my whole career, and I was always winning trophies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wish I would have taken care of my trophies, but growing up as a kid, we didn't know how to take care of much, we just kind of threw them in the back or put them somewhere, and didn't have any thoughts of putting them in, trying to save them for maybe in the future or something.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you'd need like a warehouse or something to hold them all anyway. So.
Yeah. But yeah, it was nice. And doing when I turned pro at age 15, then I got with Mongoose in 86, and then I was all of a sudden getting a contract.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good time, to turn pro. And then at 16 with Mongoose, I was, making money with the team salary. So I was in high school making money and in traveling. And yeah, it was just trying to learn how to be a professional at that time was kind of the key thing for me.
Yeah. Well, what was it like racing in the 1996 Olympics? That was the first year that mountain biking was an Olympic sport. What was that like for you?
Oh, wow. It was very exciting. It was probably a lot of stress because it was something bigger than biggest thing I ever done in my career. And I didn't know much about the Olympics or anything like that. I mean, I watched it on TV and stuff, but to be a part of it was a big honor for sure.
Yeah.
It was a lot of pressure for me because at that time mountain biking was growing so big and it was really exploding at that time, and so I was getting a lot of attention before the race. A lot of big hopes for me, and so yeah, it was a lot of pressure, and it was exciting, but it was also stressful too at that time for my age.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, I didn't know what to expect or, how I was going to do. I was hoping I was going to do well, but it started off okay. Qualifying for the Olympics at that time, I did really, I was having a my best years in my mountain bike career.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I won everything. I was national number one. I was, ranked up there in the UCI as the best American and all that. So it was really nice to be picked, first to make it on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was exciting being there, at the games,
Did you do the opening ceremonies and everything? Did you go out and march with the team? No?
No, I wish I would have,
Yeah.
The first Olympics, I did not get too involved with any of the other events that were going on. When I made it to Sydney, I did do the open ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I went to one other event to watch and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
but the first Olympic, I think I just kind of, like I said, I kind of just folded a little bit, just took it way. I didn't really go into it with, not being comfortable and relaxed, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you're easily one of the most recognizable riders out on the race course every time, you show up at the starting line. So are you able to use that to your advantage, or are there drawbacks? Are people kind of gunning for you? They're like, oh, Tinker's here. I gotta really put out a big effort, or.
I don't know. I think, after my long career, it seems like, it's nice to be still, be a big threat in a race, but, I'm just excited just to be a part of them, just going to the races, nowadays, I get invited to races and so that's really, for me, that's just a big honor just to be getting my expense, getting everything covered to go to races now. And people still enjoy watching me races, and the places that I race at are, people know that I'm coming, so they're excited to get against me, and I know they're all wanting to beat me. So there's no question about that. And everybody's, yeah. So I'm still quite. I'm just very excited that people still want me to come to the races, and places I go to is still growing. It's still growing.
Yeah.
I'm here in California. It's grown and it's kind of outgrown. And but when I go to other places, people are, still want me as a legend to show up. Because they're excited that I'm still doing it at my, especially at my age now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you have so many fans, having raced for so long, and just, I think your personality too, from what people can gather, they're excited to see you. Does that, before the race, are people coming up to you and patting you on the back? Is that distracting, or do you feed off of that a little bit?
Yeah, I do. I've actually enjoyed that, because then it just takes my mind off my, getting ready to race. I'm more relaxed when I get people asking for, a photo or something like that. It's still, I don't understand why they want a picture with me, but I think there's better looking people than me around, but it's fine. I enjoy it. It definitely, it takes my mind off the race, because I already know that I'm here to do what I have to do, just ride my best. That's all I could do.
Yeah.
And people are excited no matter how I do, so that kind of gives me more motivation, where I feel like I want to do good for them, because I'm here.
Yeah. Well, what do you make of the bike industry's recent push for more diversity in our sport?
I think it's great. It's helping me out, because it's not just focusing on one thing. I was, for my whole career in the beginning, it was all about cross country racing. And then, a lot of other things started happening: endurance racing, enduro racing, trials going. Not trials, but cyclocross in the winter. Now gravel bikes is really coming in strong, and so I really think that the sport needs it. Cross country is it's not, it's still a big part of everybody. It's still a big part in the sport, but I think there's a lot of other things that are happening that are starting to do really well too.
Yeah.
I've been doing endurance for a while now, a long while, and I'm lucky that there's always endurance races to choose from in the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
There's races all the way up to to November, with endurance racing, and now gravel racing is happening, and I'm getting invited to do gravel racing, so I'm excited about that. Mm-hmm. I enjoy gravel racing because I train, probably 90% of my training is on my road bike. Mm-hmm. So when I get on a gravel bike, I feel, pretty much right on, at home, because I do so much road training. And I think I do a lot of road training more because I live, I'm only about 18 miles from the mountains, from driving. So I ride there, and I don't, need to use my car. I could just ride my road bike to the mountains, and that's kind of like what I do on my long rides. Mm-hmm. And I do a loop in the mountains, and I ride back, and so I think gravel racing has been, it's been a really fun thing for me to do. I'm still looking for the certain kind of gravel racing I like to do. I'm not a pure flat kind of racer, and I'm still more. I've always enjoyed climbing, and if there's climbing and gravel racing, then I'm always excited about doing those.
Yeah, are you seeing different types of riders at these gravel events? Like, we've heard that it's more women are interested in gravel because maybe they had felt, or beginner riders as well, had felt sort of uncomfortable riding on the road and, getting away from cars and things like that. Are you seeing these new disciplines sort of attracting a slightly different field?
Yeah, I think so. I go to gravel races now, and there's a lot of faces I don't recognize. There's new faces, and I think a lot of people like it because road to them is just dangerous, and now that gravel racing is coming in, they feel much more comfortable on roads that are all dirt and no cars and things like that. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think gravel racing is doing really well. And I think a lot of states, there's a lot of gravel roads, and a lot of people have probably ridden gravel roads, and they feel safer on their gravel bikes than they do on the street. I'm pretty lucky. I mean, I always, want to hope that I make it back home every day, but right. I try my best to pick the safest routes on my road rides, and then picking my time. I think it's a good time to ride at this time, and because people are at work or they're at home. But when a lot of people don't get that chance to ride at pick their times, and so when they have to ride, it's usually after work, and that's when traffic is pretty stressful at that time.
Yeah.
So so I understand. I totally understand about why roads are so dangerous, and there's just so many cars, and people don't pay attention to us.
Yeah.
And you just got. I just try to just be as safe as I can, and that's all I could do.
Yeah, I read an interview that you did a year or two ago where you're talking about when you lived in Central Florida briefly, and riding on the road there was particularly uncomfortable. Yeah,
that was a very scary moment of my career, riding on the road in Orlando. But that's where I met my wife at, and I decided to live there for a year, and we decided to move back to California. So it was a good trade-off.
Yeah, right on.
It was the roads out there weren't as wide open as it is here in California. We have streets that are 4 or 5 lanes sometimes. So there's plenty of space for cars to maneuver around us and stuff like that. But I still see a lot of cyclists that ride in groups that just think they could just hog up one lane, a street, and stuff like that. And I'm just glad I don't ride group rides, because I think guys on the road bikes still think that cars are not going to want to wipe you out.
Right.
I've always rode solo because most of the professional or any cyclists they live in different parts of the city, and I don't think LA is one of their choices of training for cycling. So, but I've lived here my whole career, and I've choose to make it, my stomping grounds, and that's kind of what
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you about winning big mountain bike races. Is it, in your mind, is it more of a physical challenge, or is it about mental strength? And do you think that you excel at one of those more than maybe the other?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I just try to train every day, and I try to go to the races, and And I try to think that every race I'm going to do great at. And, but it's just harder now as my age. I think I don't know. It seems like I get, less breaks than I used to when I was younger. I mean, it's some days you just wake up and it's just, your body is just not going to function 100%, and you just do your best. And, so yeah, I wish I could have, my body work exactly the way I want it to work on race day, but it's just some days it just doesn't want to,
yeah,
be on fire, so.
Yeah. Is that because that you can't trick your body? I mean, is it like the body is the thing that's really in control, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think for sure my body is definitely in control. I wish I could just wake up. I think one of the best kind of riding that normally when I have good rides is when I get a good amount of sleep. And I realize at my age that if I don't get that good amount of sleep, then I'm going to pay the price at the race in the morning. And it just takes that one night, so it's really hard to think that, you want to hope that you're going to get that full 6 to 7 hours of sleep before race, before the morning. And it's kind of hard to make that happen, and I don't, as my age is, it seems like, the body just doesn't, want to do what you want it to do. So,
yeah.
So yeah, sleep is crucial, for me as I gotten older. I mean, when I was younger, I think I never even thought about sleep that much. I just woke up and raced, and then I was always fine. I always seemed to be fired up and everything's ready to go. But now it just seems like, one bad night, and it just, it seems like that's going to really hurt you in your race.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about that rest as well. Your race calendar tends to be super full every year, seemingly. So what's your recovery routine look like?
Yeah. So normally, with the full schedule, my training, I usually, a few days before a race and stuff like that, like on a Monday, I'll kind of do one, medium hard ride. And then from Monday, from the rest of the week till travel day, like if it's on Thursday, I usually take off. I'm always just doing maybe 2-hour rides, at least 2 hours every day.
Even on your sort of the days you're leading up to a race, like that's an easy ride for you, is 2 hours?
Yeah. Normally just 2 hours before, and then the day of the race, if it's a long distance, if it's a 100-mile race or whatever, I might go out for at least an hour before just a day before the race. I don't do a whole lot, building up to the race. The only time I take off is when I'm traveling on a plane. Mm-hmm. And when I arrive, I'll take off that travel day. And then the next day, if it's Friday, I'll go for just to kind of shake up the legs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
From traveling, from the plane or whatever.
Mm-hmm. What about the day after a ride? Like you go all out, you win the race. What's Sunday look like?
Yeah, sometimes it's good to get a ride in, but normally that's usually the travel day. So, usually I travel home the very next day. And if I am there for a full day, then I'll definitely go for a recovery ride. It's just going on the road or whatever. I won't go, off-roading or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'll just spin the legs or whatever. It could be, another hour or 2 hour ride again.
Yeah. Do you like reward yourself too? Do you like, I don't know, eat a big bowl of ice cream or something, or do you stick to your routine pretty well?
Yeah, that's something I'm really still wanting to work on is dieting now. I've gotten lucky for all my career, and just weight it's always been on my mind, mm-hmm. but I never could get down to the weight I used to been 20 years ago. Right. I'd like to be at 135, stay at 135, but now it's just staying at 140 is tough. So yeah, but it seems like it hasn't really hurt me that much, but I could definitely feel it on a bad day or a race day that I'll start to, think about my weight. I'll start to think about all kinds of things, why am I having this bad day?
Yeah.
Why did I eat that? Why did I eat so much? And, so everything will hit you at one time, when things don't go good. But yeah, if I was to race in my category and in my age category or something like that, I wouldn't worry about my weight. I mean, I could hands down still do really well in my age class. I'm, pretty much I've seemed like I usually have no problem winning all the time. But when I race at the open class and the elite class, I'm always, there's always going to be a few guys out there that are going to be lean and mean and ready just to tear me apart if they can. And then I start to wonder, I wish I was, like a little bit leaner right now so I could pedal up these hills a little bit faster and stuff like that. But I'm just trying to enjoy it. I'm going to try not to, get all down on myself,
Well, yeah, you're focusing on the things that you can do something about. I mean, obviously your age is not something, the younger guys they're going to be younger than you no matter what, but you can control your training and your diet and your recovery and all that. Yeah,
I think so. I think, because I train so hard, I kind of think that it's okay to keep on eating as much as you want. But it's always, it's just, like a yo-yo, like the next day you got to work hard just to kind of get your weight back down. And then you get back and then you eat again. And it's just like up and down, but my weight never changes because I never really changed my diet. So, yeah, but I'm going to try to work on it. It's something that I need to work on. I know I could cut calories here and there, slow down on bread eating and slow down on, certain, maybe cut down on beer and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Having a beer sponsor and getting all the beer you want is kind of hard to say, oh, one beer only, so yeah. And then with the weather being so, freaking hot here, and you're going out there and just, sweating like, like a pig. So, you want to come home and just, kind of reward yourself with a cold beer or something, so.
Exactly. Yeah. For me, I think for a lot of us, that's what keeps us going is, during the ride, we're thinking about how we're going to reward ourselves at the end.
Yeah. So as long as I'm able to stick with my work and stick with my training, diet is probably my weakness of anything, I think I do really well in my training. I train every day. I love riding and, and I don't think that's my weak point. My weak point has always been, probably my diet.
Well, you've, raced in some pretty incredible races over your career and you're still doing it. A lot of these really ultra endurance races like La Ruta, the Race Across America, 24-hour solo races. What's been the most difficult mountain bike race you've competed in?
Well, when I think about 24-hour racing now, when I used to do them, I think about it now. I couldn't see how it's possible for me to do them now. It was really, like I said, it was all in the head when you're ready to do something, and your mind is set, you could do it. So back then I was excited about doing 24-hour racings and I was, I had my schedule and I had like 4 or 5 of them a year. And I was, ready for them. And, but, I now that I think back and how how I was able to do it, it's pretty, it blows me away that I was able to do so many races. And now I have a hard time thinking of doing a 12-hour race.
Right. I imagine like just that first lap. I mean, even back when you were into it and you could get excited about it, I just imagine that first lap and thinking, oh my gosh, like for the next 23 and a half hours, like this is what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And I did a lot of them. So I was, I'm really happy that I did them. And it's just something that I'm, now that I look back, I'm just like blown away that I've done so many of them. So yeah, so it's just, determination, whenever you put your mind into something, it seems like when I do that, I'm always ready to do it. I'm up for the challenge.
Yeah, that's great. Well, yeah, I was going to ask you about 24-hour racing in particular, because that race format is clearly not as popular as it once was. And it sounds like, you don't really miss competing in those necessarily, but do you miss sort of that race scene, or were you even part of the race scene? I mean, I guess you didn't really get to enjoy like hanging out with people and, a lot of the stuff people associate with 24-hour racing. But yeah, are you sad that it's not a big thing anymore?
Yeah, it is. There's it's kind of strange that I still go to races, now, and people always said, I remember you at the 24-hour race when you used to go by me and lap me and stuff like that. And it's still brought up. So I think a lot of people do miss that sport. I think it's sad to see it go, but there's always something that's kind of backing it up. I mean, for me, I'm just glad that I wasn't counting on my 24-hour racing to be my full-time career. So now now the big thing is for me is just, long distance racing, and there's a lot of those, and there's a lot of gravel racing. So, it is sad to see that go. But I think Tucson's about the only strong one that's going on, the old Pueblo, and I've done enough of those, so I have no interest of doing those anymore either, or showing up. But it still looks like it reminds me of all the 24 hours. That's how it used to be. It was just like a small little city for the weekend, and people having a good time that are not racing, and I think that was why I enjoyed the 24-hour racing. It was just the atmosphere, the energy that I got from people going during the day, just seeing people pedaling their bikes during the night.
Yeah.
3:00 in the morning and stuff like that. It was, so that was what kept me going. I mean, that was, if they could do it, I could do it too.
Yeah. Well, we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but I'm still curious to know sort of the basics of how you train for these ultra endurance races. I mean, it seems like to a lot of people, it probably is just like, well, just ride your bike all day and then you'll get good at riding for a long time. But it's got to be more complicated than that, right? Like, so what does that look like for you during the week?
Yeah, I mean, I do have a way of, I push myself. I know how to push myself from just competing my whole career. Just knowing what how I should set my pace on my rides. So when I'm riding, it looks like I'm, like kind of going at race pace a little bit on my road bike. I'm averaging over 20 miles an hour most of the ride, So I'm always, I mean, if it's a headwind, then I might be dealing with, slowing, the pace will slow down a little bit, but I'm kind of pushing through the headwind. But I'm always just, keeping my engine high. I'm always pedaling hard all the way to the mountains. I got these times that I kind of, pay attention to. If I get to the mountains under an hour, like about 50 minutes or something, then it's a good time for me. So yeah, I'm really pushing hard. And people probably look at me kind of strange. I kind of, they probably go, "What the heck is that guy going so?"
Yeah.
It looks like I'm like attacking or pushing hard for some reason, and they don't understand. But that's just how I ride.
Yeah, they're like, "Who's chasing this guy? Why is he?"
Yeah, why is he pushing so hard?
Is he in danger?
And so yeah, and then when I see people, I kind of use that as on a bicycle or something. I try to see how long it takes me to catch up with them, and when I do catch up with them, I go by them, and the same thing on the climbs too. I know that I have to be pushing pretty fast. If I'm going up a climb at, 10 miles an hour or faster, then I'm thinking it's a good pace and stuff like that. So I just kind of, just know how I'm pushing, that I'm pushing hard. And so, that's kind of how I know I'm, doing a hard ride. It's just how I'm pushing my pace, I don't slack around. I want to get it done. I'm not thinking of, I don't slow down too much, only for stop signs or signals, but I'm always just, just going hard the whole way.
Yeah.
And normally when you're riding with someone, people are usually not thinking that riding that pace because they're riding together. When I get to a signal, if I'm riding together, I have to, say, hey, let's, I have to tell them, let's go through this way, or, pass through the light if it's no cars and stuff like that.
Right.
Where I'm by myself, I do, I just go by. If it looks safe, I'm going to go through it. I don't have to deal with telling anybody what I'm doing. So I try to keep the pace nonstop all the way till I get home, So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I work it.
Yeah. You're a professional racer. And so, I mean, obviously training and racing, that's your job, but is it like a 9 to 5? Is it like, okay, I spend, 8 hours a day either on the bike or like doing strength stuff, or is it not that much time commitment? I guess that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like work. I mean, I have to get on my bike every day, first of all. Yesterday I did a 4-hour ride. I did, I think like 71 miles or something like that. And today I'm going to do an easy ride. So I'm going to do, 2.5 hours. I'll do about 40, 41, at least over 40 miles today on a, pretty, try to keep my pace up to about 20, a pace where I feel comfortable at, cause I need to have something to shoot for after. I mean, when I go on my hard ride, I want to go faster than 20. So at least if I'm doing a recovery ride and I could stay at around 20, that's a pretty good speed for a recovery ride. So I kind of I got to have some kind of goals, so, easy rides, I got to, keep it at a certain, pace. And I look at my speed. I don't look at, I don't do any cadence. I don't do any heart rate. I don't do any of that. So my computer is my, kind of my thing that I always use as my tool, just speed. I look at my, my speed. If I'm only cranking at 17 miles an hour and I got a tailwind, that's really going slow.
Right.
So if I'm cranking, if I get a tailwind, I'll push it up to, even on an easy day, I'll push it up to 22, miles an hour, take advantage of a tailwind. It's still, you're spinning, and it's sort of, to me, I think of motor pacing, if you get a tailwind, you're kind of like getting a break and you're getting a, kind of like a motor pacing ride. So I think of it as a motor pacing ride, take advantage of high cadence right now.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about the Tinker Classic Gravel Race and Grand Fondo. That's a relatively new event that takes place in Utah, right?
It's in Beatty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Beatty, Nevada. Yes, Simran, which is a race promoter, she came up with the idea of having a Tinker Classic, and the only bad thing about it is Beatty is just probably maybe a few hundred people in this town. And it's really far to the middle of nowhere. So, so anybody that wants to go to Beatty better love nature and better love the desert, because that's all you're going to get. You get cactus, you get tumbleweeds, you get maybe some donkeys out there. And, you get some small, nature out there, life. But there ain't much. So, I'm pretty thankful because it is not too far from Vegas, maybe 2-hour drive from Vegas. So people from the Vegas come, but from California, for me to drive all the way up there, it's a pretty long drive. It's almost 4 hours, 5-hour drive. And, but like I say, it's, Simran was, she's a really good friend, a really good race promoter. She puts on a lot of good races in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to have the Tinker Classic. And Dave Spicer, which is the guy that owns the ranch, really loves biking. And he opens his ranch because he's made a lot of single tracks out there for people just to come to his, his ranch and hang out and go and ride some single track and stuff like that. So there was really nothing that I had to devote except give my name and try to show up, to my own race.
Right.
So for me, I felt really thankful for her to even want to have a Tinker Classic, so it's more like it's turning out more like a big group ride. It's not going to ever grow into, attract hundreds of riders and stuff like that. But it is a fun place. And, if you like riding in the desert, this is, a perfect place to do it.
Yeah, that's cool. I imagine the racing part is tough because who wants to come and compete against you? This is your race, It's like, wait, do we let this guy win or what do we do? Yeah,
it was. We were talking about that. I won it the first 3 years, and I did get some pretty good competition, but it comes down to the endurance at the end, and that's where my strength kind of kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys just push it really hard, too hard in the beginning, and I have to hang with them. And I'm trying to think, how long is this guy going to keep this pace? And then I'm going to, okay, if you want to do the work, go ahead. And as sooner or later, they start to, gear up one gear just because they're starting to pedal backwards a little bit. And and then I start to feel that I start to feed on that when I know they're starting to hurt, and then hopefully I have something at the end to beat them. But we were planning this year this time to not race as competitive, just hang out with the riders and ride with the group and just talk about anything, if they want tips, or maybe I'll just pull them for a long while and, and just have fun with the riders instead of, and just hang out with them in the race, and just see what they like to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you going to be able to do the race this year with coronavirus and everything happening?
Unfortunately, it just got postponed probably less than 2 weeks ago. They were hoping, but just like everything, it just seems like it's just been an avalanche of all the races. If one race falls along, then the next race seems to cancel, and it just keeps on going on. And but I do, I'm lucky. I have 2 races this month. I have a race next weekend in Georgia. The Fool's Gold, and it's an NUE
cool.
series.
Yeah.
And I'll be doing that. And then I'll have a race in North Dakota. And that's going to be a challenging race. It's going to be something I'm not really good at is reading maps on my computer or even downloading something and just following my map instead of looking for arrows and stuff. So I know that that's going to probably not work well for me, but I'm hoping to I'm hoping to chase the guy that won it in the past and stay with him because he'll know how to use the computer better than me. And in case something happened with mine and I can't reset it or can't find the map and get back to the map and figure out where it's, and it's going to be a disaster for me if I lose him in my race, because then I'm going to have to follow my own directions. And if I don't see arrows or chalk marks or anything like that, I'm going to be in big trouble. So, but it'll be something new, and hopefully I might learn something after that weekend.
Yeah, that's good motivation to keep up with the person in the front. So, what is your secret for staying fast on the bike and continuing to not just compete but beat riders who are half your age?
I think it's just I've been lucky to be in the sport since the beginning, and being in it from the beginning, and people looking up to me is still in my career at this time. Having Canada be my sponsor since '94, they still take care of me as a professional. And as a professional, I always known that if it's your job, you gotta ride your bike every day. And living here in LA, when you ride, there's nobody out there, and you got to think that, man, this is my job, and I have to, and those are their jobs. So I'm just really thankful just to be able to still do it. And, to do it as a job, cause when you think of everybody around California, I mean, there's no cyclists that do it for a living. And, that's kind of a big honor for me to be still doing it, at my age, and, getting to put my helmet on and put my gear on and going out and doing this every day. It's, and Canada will give me the best bikes. I mean, that's pretty good motivation. So I'm to be at 59 and doing it, as a professional this long, I don't want to wake up and hopefully this is, I just want to keep it as a dream. And my goal is that if I made it to 59, I'm hoping to make it to 62 as a professional. That's kind of my goal.
Yeah.
Because in this way I could start collecting money and,
right.
and I could, if I don't have a job as racing, at least I'll be able to survive with the money I'll be collecting from unemployment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or Social Security, I mean.
Right. Well, have you been able to avoid injury? Would you say, is that something that's allowed you to ride a long time, or do you recover fast from injury?
I think it has been lucky. I've been very lucky. I mean, I had some close calls in my past. I remember having a fracturing, or again, what did I have happen to me? I did something to my hip. I got a hairline fracture or something like that. And it was pretty serious, and I couldn't move on this race. It was a local race. It was in Mexico, and I fell. I just went over the bars, and I just got just tossed like a slingshot, and just landed on my head, and then my back, and then next thing I know, I just couldn't move. I had to almost drag myself off a little bit off to the side,
wow.
just with my arm, just because that little pinch or whatever was hurting me in my leg or my hip was it was so painful, and I never felt that pain. And so, then I had to get in a truck, and then the truck was off road, and then I had to fill every little bump in the truck, laying in the back bed, and didn't know what was wrong with me, and I had blood coming out of me in my arm or something like that. It was just a freak fall, and I was leading the race, and I just, something just launched me over my bars. I bounced off a rock or something. And I was kind of had some good speed going because I had a little slight downhill, and then it was a rise up in the hill, and then it was a rise going down. And I think when I went over this hill, I think I just hit a rock, and somehow my suspension just kicked at the right time to just throw me over the bars. And then after that, I got home, and they couldn't do anything to me because it was a fracture. So I'm trying to recover from that, and I'm on just crutches, or not even crutches, one of those walkers, and just couldn't move off a couch, and then finally when I was able to, after weeks, I went on my bike, and I'm slowly recovering, and then I ended up falling again and landing on my other side of my hip.
Oh my goodness!
And it was and it was like almost putting everything away, and then I'll say, well, we got to keep this stuff out because you got a couple more weeks of more healing to do on your other hip. So that was really a nightmare for me at that time in my career. But yeah, I bounced back, and I think I recovered still in good time. Probably under 2 months, for sure. So yeah. But after that, I just think more and more about everything that could possibly happen when I'm riding. I think about anything and everything. I always think about doors opening on roads. Yeah. I think about, anything that could happen. I look at that accident that you don't want that accident to happen. So I even visualize an accident happening that I don't want to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're cautious. You don't let the fear like overwhelm you. It doesn't sound like. You just are like, that could happen. I need to avoid it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think about all the things that could happen I don't want to happen now. And so, yeah, so I'm extra careful about riding my bike every day now, and I don't, try to do anything extra crazy as far as training or riding my mountain bike. I don't do anything that's too technical. I avoid all that stuff now. I would rather just walk it or not even be there or do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to, do anything for my career. Mm-hmm. And, it's not going to give me anything bigger or make me any kind of big superstar. So I just prefer to save myself, I mean, racing too. There's guys that do crazy stuff that I won't even do in my race. And I just go, well, I'm not going to chase after him because that's just way too gnarly for me. And so I'll lose time, and it's okay for me because, I'm out here to just, have fun, but also want to finish the race and survive and not get hurt, So, to me, winning a race, I'm not going to, take all those risks just to win a race. And like Ruta, there's a lot of things that could happen in La Ruta, for instance. And I already know that as soon as they take off, bye, I'm not going to chase you. I'm going to ride my own pace and be safe and not crash.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that could happen in La Ruta that I just know that I can't do, and I won't take any chances to stay with these guys. And these guys, they don't care. They just have no fear and they do it. And it's just not me anymore.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it sounds like your thinking has changed, as you've gotten older. So what do you know now that you wish you had known when you were competing in your 20s?
I just probably wish I would be a little bit more better in my technical riding. I mean, there's, guys that are just so much better than me now. Drop posters are now more popular because people are more into saving every second, every chance they can. I don't think of that. I just I feel like I could go just as fast as they are. I see when I watch them in front of me when they're dropping their seat posts and when they're using it. and they're not really making that much gang, but then we're not on a trail that I wouldn't do that super, if they're on the super technical section, then, that drop poster will definitely work for them because I am not trying to stay up with them. So I see the big advantages on a lot of technical courses, and I totally see, how they're, making up time and saving time and all that. So yeah. There is an advantage with it, but like I say, I'm not the type that if it gets too hairy, I don't care if I wouldn't, even a drop seat post is not going to make me make me want to take that section or do it, any different. So,
Yeah. Well, it's working. So you've raced bikes all over the world. Where are your favorite places to ride just for fun?
Wow. It seems like everywhere I go, it's just a new place and it's new trails. And, I just enjoy just going into new cities and new places just to ride. It's always something that is exciting for me. I've been to Europe a lot, and I ride in Spain, and I enjoy Spain. I've been in Austria, and I think Austria is just like a picture. It looks like a picture to me. It's so beautiful, and so it's. I just getting a chance to ride in these places is just an honor, and it's just a dream. I get out of here, leave the city here, and don't see cars and don't see stress and don't have to deal with glasses or, broken bottles and homeless people and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I go anywhere. It's like paradise, so, yeah. So for me, it's just, it's just an honor to really see, other places and just to get a chance to ride on their trails and enjoy their, in their places and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to look at it.
So it's all beautiful. I mean, like Utah is beautiful, and, there's so many places I would like to live different, but, I choose here, my family's here, and I'm just lucky to be able to go there and spend a weekend just to ride on their, in their beautiful place where they ride at. And there's some times where I almost like to take even a small little vacation to go there and train. Just because it's so nice,
Yeah.
And, so yeah, there's everywhere that I've been to is usually a beautiful place,
Yeah.
Even the Badlands in North Dakota is even beautiful, so it's all nice. I get to ride their beautiful trails, and it's really for me, I'm really thankful just to be able to get that opportunity. So,
yeah, that's great.
It makes riding fun, because it's so beautiful and it's exciting and it's a different kind of a challenge. And, yeah.
Well, you mentioned that you're 59 years old. And so the last question I want to ask you is, how do you plan to celebrate your 60th birthday next year?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Once I turn 60, there ain't no more 50s left. So
Right.
60 and up, those numbers are going to get higher. I don't know. We thought when I turned 50, it was going to be a big deal. And, and actually, when I turned 60, I really don't have any big plans. I just want to continue riding professionally, hopefully, sign with Canada for another couple more years and shoot for my goal to be 62. And, if I turn 62 and whatever happens with my career at that point, it's going to be all, it's all going to be all good for me.
Yeah.
So 60 is not my picture of, celebrating much, except just happy that I'm still doing what I love to do, is riding my bike and taking care of my kid and taking care of, just surviving each day.
Yeah. Right on. Well, Tinker, thanks so much for taking the time to talk. And we really wish you the best of luck in your races this year and through the rest of your career. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. It was good talking with you. Thank you for all the cool questions and all that good stuff, too.
All right. Well, that's all we've got this week. Talk to you again next week.